So hello fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I remember Ebola. Do you remember Ebola? It was not long ago, and people in America were absolutely scared out of their minds that Ebola would come to America. And I think there's something similar, aside from the fact that people are scared of Ebola and they're not scared of COVID. I think the similarity between the two is that people were not listening to what the experts were saying. The experts were saying that, number one, Ebola was very, very difficult to get. People who had Ebola, they displayed the symptoms of Ebola at the time when they were able to spread it. If you were in contact with someone who had Ebola before they had any symptoms, more than likely you had no problem or risk of catching Ebola from them. But people really didn't seem to listen. That didn't seem to matter. I remember there was a nurse who she had caught Ebola and recovered, and she wanted to go outside and exercise and do all this other stuff. And there was this furor and excitement and outrage that she would want to do that. And the idea is that, okay, I think they found some elements of Ebola in people's, number one, in their semen, or is that Zika? No, I think it might have been. They found traces of it in the semen, maybe. And they also found it in people's eyeballs. So it even after the period of time that they were supposed to be cured, there were still elements of it. Now I wonder if they can still find elements of disease, because they talk about, you see every once in a while about people who are able to spread Ebola for weeks and weeks and weeks. I saw that one woman, they said that for months maybe she was able to continue to spread it. Now maybe this is a common thing in different diseases. Not that it's common, like 99% of people continue to spread. No, it's probably doubtful. But maybe there are other diseases, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, whatever, where some people, very few people, can continue to spread it long after they say that, hey, this person has recovered. I think that it's more than likely that just because this one is novel, as they say, the novel coronavirus, that is what has people, some people, some of us, maybe the news media, looking for what's special about this thing. The scary thing, the way that people like scary movies. Except, of course, a lot of people are not scared of this new disease that we have never seen before, that we've only been aware of for less than a year. So, I don't know. But I'm sure that there are things that we don't know about quote unquote common diseases. And maybe if we look at this one, maybe we might find out some of those things that we never knew about common diseases. But what if coronavirus had come from Africa? I wonder if people in the US would be as flippant about it. Oh, it's just a cold. It's just a bad cold. And even I saw they interviewed people from Dakota, people who, this one guy who is morbidly obese and old, who is talking about, if I get it, I get it. Obviously, he's never gotten it. Obviously, he's never gotten a bad case of it. And I think part of what they're saying is that, hey, most people still have not known personally someone who has had it. And of course, depending on your party affiliation, you might still be like I was, which is listening to some people who had no right being on the air and providing information about this virus. Unfortunately, I think that that's true. I think the news media probably better off curating, finding better sources, and I'm probably better off finding better sources when it comes to people who agree or disagree with anything that Donald Trump might be saying. I should probably make sure I find people who are nowhere in agreement with him about anything. Because I think one of the first people that I saw who was supposed to be a respected source, who it turned out was not, was in agreement with Donald Trump that it really wasn't that serious. And it was a little bit crazy that I was listening to this person who was probably on Fox News while Wuhan was locked down, saying that it really wasn't that serious. I was a little bit crazy. But yeah, I know people were afraid of Zika. Uh, Maybe it's because it was hurting babies. And right now, I don't even know if it has been disproved or not. But people are saying, yeah, well, nobody seems to be concerned about Zika anymore. And it seems to have been supposedly rampant. It had gotten to the US and was being transmitted. It's supposed to still be in Brazil, but nobody is talking about it. And yet it makes babies who need to be cared for the rest of their lives. That seemed like a serious thing. And nobody is talking about that anymore. Like if it's gone, like if it's 100% proven that it doesn't do anything. So I probably have to look into that myself. But I think that if this virus had come from Africa, any part of Africa, that people would not be saying stuff like, if I get it, I get it. That is, I think, like Ebola is, it's not a nice disease, of course, to be bleeding and hemorrhaging. And it's so funny to me. It's funny because I have not really heard, there haven't been people who have interviewed victims of Ebola. There were the two Americans who went back to America. I don't know that they were interviewed about their experience of having Ebola. They probably were. They probably have been interviewed. But maybe I don't remember what they said. But the people who've had bad cases of uh, the coronavirus, they abound. There are lots of people who have had bad cases of coronavirus and they've talked about their experience as not being pleasant. And apparently, about the coronavirus, 20% of people get hospitalized, 20, 25, somewhere around there. Yes, most people are not hospitalized, but there are enough people who are hospitalized who, I think the source, I think the imagery, I think those things probably matter. much more. It's basically the marketing. The marketing of the disease is what makes people decide whether they want to take it seriously, I think. And it's funny to put it in that context, but yeah, the marketing of coronavirus is that it's a cold. It's one of the coronaviruses that give you the cold. Ebola is this new, look at it, funny shaped, worm like looking virus. It's weird. It's like an alien. It burrows into your face like Alien from the movies. And you end up coughing up blood, just like in the horror movies. And at the end of it, there's all this blood and phlegm and whatever fluid all over the place. And you just explode, boom, like in the movie Aliens. Now, that is some horrific marketing that gets people to jump up in their movie seat and decide that they would rather gun down people with a machine gun or an assault rifle who have this disease as opposed to somebody who's just giving you a bad cold. Uh, but yeah, I really would like to see the next disease that comes out of Africa, how people feel about it, even if it's just a cold. Because I think, I mean, HIV, yeah, for a long time there, HIV was what? A death sentence. You would catch all of these different diseases. And now, I wonder if people are as flip about HIV as they are about the coronavirus because, you don't die of HIV anymore. Or if it has had this historic marketing that would make it something that people are not scared of. I remember this guy was saying that his doctor told him that it was, you know, from a life position point of view, better for someone to have HIV than to have diabetes. And it seems horrible, but when you really start to compare the pros and cons side by side, yeah, because you can have an undetectable level of HIV infection. So, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist in your body. But with diabetes, you have to pay attention to your blood sugar. You can lose a toe or a leg or your sight, or it could probably affect other organs beyond that. So, you're constantly having to monitor this thing. Otherwise, it can get worse and you can lose body parts. So, even though HIV was initially much worse, now, for all intents and purposes, even with respect to the price, it is a lot better to have HIV, especially if you live in America or some country where the drugs are reasonably cheap. It's interesting about the marketing of the coronavirus and what has gotten us to this point.